The following is brought to you by the Social Suplex Podcast Network.
Kosei Fujita, listening, Keeping Strong Style.
Yo, this is Rich Latta from One Nation Radio. This is brought to you by the Social Suplex Podcast Network. We present to you the Ace of Podcasts, Keepin' It Strong Style. Let's go. It's the Ace of Podcasts, Keepin' It Strong Style. Covering New Japan, they ready to hold it down. Jeremy Donovan and the young boy Josh. Come and hit a job out and bury all the frauds. From the Tokyo Dome over to the G1. Social Suplex is the network where we can get it done. I'ma chill and let them have it, cause this is just an intro. Keeping the strong style, 6 stars from the get-go, boy. Yeah, from Tampa Bay to the Tokyo Dome, this is Keeping It Strong Style with your hosts, Jeremy Donovan and the young boy Joshua Smith. And thank you for listening.
Welcome to Keeping It Strong Style, the Ace of Podcasts on the Social Suplex Podcast Network. Jeremy Donovan here with the young boy Josh Smith. On today's show, we'll review Royal Quest and preview Super Junior Tag League. Please support our show by subscribing and following the Social Suplex Podcast Network or Keeping It Strong Style on the podcast app of your choice and leave a rating and review. You can also get all the network's podcasts over at socialsuplex.com. Check out our Chopped Tea store, chopped-tees.com/KI Strong Style. That's where you can get your official Keeping It Strong Style merchandise. That's free shipping on every order and 10% off your first order. Chopped-tees.com/KI Strong Style. If you enjoy this podcast, please consider making a one-time or monthly donation by visiting socialsuplex.com/donate and click on the donate button under the Keeping It Strong Style logo. And we are streaming live right now on patreon.com/KI Strong Style for IWGP subscribers. If you want access to the weekly live stream, ad-free audio, and bonus content, you can subscribe at patreon.com/KI Strong Style. Young boy, how you doing, man?
I'm sick. Yeah, it's been a rough couple days over here. Dog got sick today. I'm sick. Girlfriend's sick. So, not feeling the best. But the people need to hear about who X was at Royal Quest. So, there's no days off, Mr. No Days Off. My roster here.
Yeah, people have been blowing up the DMs asking us if we have a scoop on who X is, so got to give it to him.
I knew who it was. I just didn't tell you or anybody else.
Oh, man. Well, yeah, let's jump into it. Royal Quest 4.
I want to talk about something before we jump into the show.
Okay.
You put out a Twitter question that got a lot of traction. You asked if you could show your friends or someone that one match from New Japan to get them invested, or I don't remember exactly how you phrased it, but essentially asked them if they could show one match to showcase New Japan to somebody, get them interested in it. What match would you show them, right?
Yeah.
Great question. Lots of interaction from people we don't even really normally interact with that much online. So that was cool. A lot of great answers. I'm going to tell you, Jeremy, I disagree with 5% of the answers that we got.
All right. Why is that?
Very simple. None of those motherfuckers that they are recommending in those matches work for New Japan anymore. How the fuck are you going to introduce somebody to New Japan showing them Will Ospreay or Kenny Omega? They don't work here.
But yeah, these guys were great. Oh, where are they? Oh, they don't work here anymore.
You want to showcase how great the company is by showing them Kazuchika Okada. Guy doesn't go here, bro. So Shibata, dude doesn't work here. The vast majority of the matches were recommendations of matches from years gone by where the guys just don't work in the company anymore. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
which got me to thinking, I don't want to doom and gloom here, but like, what is a good match that you can showcase right now to somebody that's like a top tier match with guys that work in the company, like strictly, not.
So both guys have to be working here.
I mean, I guess you could like really bend it if you wanted and show them Zack versus Danielson, but Danielson doesn't work for New Japan. He's had a couple matches in the last decade. That's it. Like, Okada's had a lot of great matches recently. He's not in the company. It gets difficult. Even even like a couple G1s ago, you show him Ospreay versus Naito. That's a great one. Ospreay don't go here, bro.
Yeah, I mean,
it gets difficult once you start focusing on the guys that are still here.
Yeah, I mean, I think you got to go to like Ishii Shingo. Some of their they've had some classic matches.
That was what I thought of. I think that is probably the right answer is Ishii Shingo.
There's also Zack and Shingo. I've had a lot of great matches as well. Let's see, Rambo in the chat saying Tsuji and Goto from New Japan Cup Finals.
Oh, that match, I feel like that match doesn't get enough love. That match was stupendous.
Yeah, that was great. I mean, some of the Zack Naito matches, I think you can pull to Zack Tanahashi. I know Tanahashi is broken down, but if you kind of want to show them how great this guy was with an active guy. I mean, I love Shingo Tanahashi as well for the Never title.
Like, remember, I also saw a lot of like Ibushi. A lot of people like, I'm like, doesn't work here. You know what I mean? Like, how are you going to showcase New Japan with a bunch of dudes that don't go here anymore?
Yeah, you hook somebody like, all right, when do I get to see Ibushi again? Oh,
that Ricochet guy was really good. I can't wait to see more of him. Did you pick up on that at all when you were reading the answers?
I mean, I saw that, but I was just thinking, I guess, if you just kind of want to get somebody, show them overall, like, it's a really great match, and it's like, all right, that's you're easing them into New Japan, and then you kind of bring them into modern day.
Yeah. So yeah, I just thought that was an interesting thing that we should talk about.
Yeah. Well, let's jump into Royal Quest 4. This happened this past Sunday at the Crystal Palace National Sports Center. We had an attendance of 1,544. And so how that compares to previous Royal Quests, also some in the same building, some in other buildings. So 2022 was in Crystal Palace, and we had 2 nights that year. That's 2022, Royal Quest 2. So night 1, an attendance of 2,137. The main event that night was FTR versus Aussie Open. And then night 2, 1,966, with the main event being Naito versus Sabre. And then Royal Quest 1 and Royal Quest 3 were both in the Copper Box. So Royal Quest 1, 2019, Copper Box, that was 6,199 attendance, with the main event Okada versus Suzuki, IWGP Heavyweight Title. And then Royal Quest 3, 2023, in the Copper Box was 3,191, with Will Ospreay versus Zack Sabre Jr. for the IWGP US title. So not the best attendance here for Royal Quest 4.
Yeah, I think some of that probably has to do with, the strength of the card in general. Maybe not the strongest showcase of New Japan, maybe not the strongest showcase of the best of Rev Pro, and not like taking shots at anybody in particular, but there's quite a few big names from Rev Pro that were absent from the show. When you kind of compare that to some of, even going further back, not even just Royal Quest, but like some of those big like Global Wars and that sort of thing back in the day, you'd get crazy cool matchups with big names from across both the UK, US, and Japan. And that's not really the case at this point in time. So I think that's part of it. Some of it could be a detriment to Zack, but I'm not really willing to impute too much of that on him, because we've seen him draw in this spot plenty of times. We've seen him do good business in the UK, but the one thing that's there that's not normal is SANADA, and SANADA's worked Rev Pro quite a bit, if I recall, because I mean, LIJ worked Rev Pro plenty of times, but I don't think there have been too many major main event spots in the UK with SANADA. So, this just wasn't a big drawing show. It did okay business, but probably not what you were hoping for this spot, I would assume.
Yeah, I think another thing that hurt it, there was a Rev Pro show the day before. They had a Global Wars show that did feature a lot of New Japan guys were on that card as well as Zack Sabre Jr. So if that show was closer to you and you want to see Zack with the IWGP title, you could have gone to that show the night before and then not have to worry about going to the second night. And then plus two, the marketing, like what were they doing to market that show? We don't really know like I doubt they were running a ton of advertisements out there. And I think that goes back to a question we got a few weeks ago on like, is New Japan hot? And when you look at something like this, where it's like, you look back at previous years, it's like all they had to do was say New Japan is coming to this country and they got thousands of people there. Whereas here, it's like, all right, New Japan's coming. Zack Sabre Jr. is your champion, and you're getting like 1,500. And so again, it's like, yeah, back to the marketing of like, I know again we talk about this too with title matches and like not announcing them ahead of time. Yes, they did announce Zack SANADA several weeks ahead of time, but we didn't find out until the week of the show that Zack's a champion and it's going to become a title match.
Yeah, I mean, there are quite a few things that you could look at over the past 4 or 5 years that have, been detriments to the brand of New Japan. But there's a lot of things within that time frame you could look at that also have been detriments to the prestige of the title. So even the title in and of itself is not a top-notch draw. Just saying that the IWGP World Title is on the line isn't enough to amass a large audience. And I mean, some of those World Quest shows that they've done in the past didn't even have the world title defended except for the first one. So, there's also that.
Yeah. So interesting stuff there. Let's take a look at this year's card. So show opened up. We had a pre-show match with Youngblood, Oscar Loibe, and Yuto Nakashima to New Japan Young Lions on excursion in the UK. They defeated the team of Greedy Souls, Brendan White, and Danny Jones in 12 minutes and 5 seconds.
I'm trying to think. I don't think I saw this match.
Did you watch on World or Rev Pro on Demand?
I watched on World. But I turned it on when the show was starting at 12:30. Did this start before then?
So I didn't watch live. I watched later on the afternoon, and when I watched it, that was the first match on the file that I...
Yeah, I'm like thinking right now, I'm like, did I miss this? Yeah, I must have missed that.
Gotcha.
So I don't have much to say there. I do know, obviously, Youngblood coming in as WXW champions, but I didn't see this match at all.
Yeah, it was a fine opener. Lube got the pin with an F5 on White for the win here, and kind of just a standard kind of tag team match. I mean, I didn't think Youngblood really stood out here, but I'm not sure that match was really designed for that. And with Greedy Souls, like, they were okay. They weren't, to me, I don't feel like they fully took advantage of this opportunity. Kind of like we talked about with Caveman Ugg last week, where like he went out there and was like, all right, this guy wants a job. And like with Greedy Souls, I didn't really feel like, I feel like they were just kind of having, opening, and I don't really know Greedy Souls. I don't know their experience or not, but it just kind of felt like your standard opening match. Like they weren't really trying to prove themselves. And Youngblood, I mean, they looked fine and we're doing some cool kind of power offense. And yeah, they're two champions now. I know they're WXW, and there's another set of tag team titles they had as well. But yeah, it was a fine opener for the show, for the pre-show.
Yeah. I'm looking back at the Discord because I was in our Discord doing live chat. Yeah, I'm not alone. The first match that showed up, maybe with this being on the pre-show, it was like literally like at noon or something like that. Whereas I tuned in at 12:30 when it was like advertised to start. I just assumed that the pre-show match would be part of it.
Yeah, again, back to the advertising, and yeah, if you're gonna have a pre-show match, like just say the show is starting at 12 if you want people to watch this pre-show match.
Yeah, and I mean, there's more to it than even just that. Like, we weren't really sure until last week's show which channel this was going to be on, whether it was a pay-per-view, whether it was going to be on World. I didn't find out till the day of that the English was on Rev Pro on demand, which I don't understand that, at all. I guess I guess it's part of the partnership, but I don't know if that makes too much sense to me personally.
Yeah, that wasn't really made clear in the build to this show that, all right, yeah, Japanese only on World, English on Rev Pro on demand. And yeah, I don't really get that strategy of like, you have a lot of English speaking subscribers to NJPW World. So why would you be forcing them to pay for another service just to get English commentary?
Well, it appeared to me that the broadcast was, a Rev Pro production as opposed to New Japan. So maybe that's part of the trade-off with the partnership. And I did hear that they were going to be doing some upgrades to the production. Did you watch this on World, or did you?
Yeah, I watched it on World.
Okay. Yeah, because I was able to actually toggle between World and Rev Pro on demand. And I went to Rev Pro on demand where they had English, and that was great. The commentary was great, but the video quality sucked. But when I switched over to New Japan World, the video quality, I wouldn't say it was great, but it was clear. But it's in Japanese. So I don't know. I thought that was surprising, but it didn't have the same typical audio issues that you're used to having with Rev Pro. And it was a much higher level of broadcasts clarity. But that's not to say that it was like stellar. It's just much better than what you're used to getting from Rev Pro. So I don't know. I guess they've taken some strides in production department, which is good.
Yeah, because when watching on World, I thought, it looked pretty good for it being a Rev Pro show. I think the only audio issue was with the ring announcer. Her mic was like super hot, and so she's like yelling too. And I'm just like, oh my god, like why is her mic has to be peaking like in the audio guy's ear? Like turn that down.
Yeah, I turned you down because you were peeking in my ear on the show. No, I'm just playing. No, I've actually with my sickness, I've got an ear infection. That's what's bothered me. So I've got the whole, actually like everything feels like I'm underwater right now. It's weird. But people were making fun of her, saying that she was like a Lenny Hart ripoff from like the old Pride days, which I thought was funny.
Well, after that pre-show match, we had the first official match of the card. We had the Bullet Club team of Taiji Ishimori and his new partner, Robbie X. They defeated the CPF team of Danny Black and Joe Lando, 7 minutes and 57 seconds.
Yeah, this was a good opener. It wasn't overly long, so obviously they didn't get a great opportunity to showcase everything that they were capable of doing there. I myself, I'm not the biggest Brit Res pundit out there. So it's not like I've seen a ton of Robbie X. Familiar with the name. I've seen a handful of matches. I think that's a good surprise entrant to the Super Junior Tag League. And it kind of makes sense considering that this was a UK show that they would give one of the Rev Pro guys a shot. So that's all good and well. A lot of anticipation from the fans to see who X was. I think some people might have been disappointed here that it's Robbie X, but I'm not sure who their ideal alternative was, who could have been filling that spot. I feel like he's a pretty good candidate to be put in that spot.
Yeah, we did get a question there about Rambo from that. He said, how do you feel about Taiji Ishimori's mystery partner? I was a little let down, but maybe I was just expecting something bigger than I should have. What do you think?
The only thing I think that would have, I guess if you wanted to see some more established, familiar North American name, like, I don't know, like a Leo Rush or something like that, maybe, or like, I don't know, Mustafa Ali, someone that you're kind of familiar with that, could step into that role. Maybe that would make sense. There's probably some Puro gatekeepers that want like one of the deep cut guys from, Big Japan or something, or like Glate. But I'm fine with it, honestly.
Yeah, I was pretty happy with it. Like you mentioned, I haven't seen a ton of Robbie X, but we've seen a handful of his matches, and he's had feuds with like Will Ospreay in the past, and I've always thought he looked great anytime I've seen him wrestle. And so I was pretty excited for him to be the mystery partner and kind of get him in the mix for Super Junior Tag League, get him in Bullet Club. And so, yeah, Ishimori came out and said, bring on the X. And so I think this is probably the second time in New Japan history where the X has an X in their name. Of course, Shelton X Benjamin and now Robbie X coming in as the mystery partner here for Taiji Ishimori.
Of course, we all know the greatest X to ever have performed in a cerulean blue ring is Tracer X.
Yes. Where is Tracer X?
Bro, I miss Tracer X. That's my dog.
Oh, man.
One of the running themes of this show will be underwhelming, to be honest with you. I think by and large, across the board, there were very few things that I thought exceeded expectations or were even highly enjoyable, which is unfortunate. But I don't really put too much of that on this match. They were given less than 8 minutes to do their thing. CPF, I'm not familiar with Danny Black and Joe Lando, but they had a good look. They seemed like guys that were hungry to kind of prove themselves. This was very much like your high-paced, flippy-do opener tag match. Everybody got their shit in. And Robbie X and Taiji Ishimori, they won convincingly, as they should, as sort of a preview for the Super Junior Tag League. But I at the same time, I wouldn't say that this match was one where you need to go out of your way to see. I think the big appeal was showcasing Robbie X, which is exactly what they did here, got the fans familiar with them. Ishimori, very over with this audience, got one of the bigger pops of the night. And CPF, two young, hungry guys that I thought tried their best to maximize their minutes, even if they seemed like they might be, a green tag team.
Yeah, and with CPF, I feel like unlike Greasy Souls, like were trying to impress like New Japan officials and work really hard, and they were doing a lot of cool moves, a lot of cool dives out there. And then Robbie X, I felt like he was, showing out why he's being brought into Japan. He just moved so smooth in the ring. He did a double Pele kick at one point, and towards the end of the match, he did a spiral tap like maneuver to get the win for the team. So yeah, I thought it was a pretty fun opener.
Yeah, commentary mentioned how it's taken a long time for Paris De Silva and Jude. What's their tag name?
Velocities.
Yeah, it's taken a long time for the Velocities to get invited to Super Junior Tag League. And they were talking about how this team CPF feels like they should be in that mix. And I felt like based on the work they did, I mean, we opened a spot last year in World Tag League for the team that was under what was their names? The
Gates of Agony.
Yeah, the Gates of Agony. That was a team that came in, had a nice little run, got some good experience, and opened some doors for them. I wouldn't be opposed to a team like CPF coming in, especially with how thin the junior tag division is in New Japan at this point in time. It'd probably be fine for a team like that to come in and kind of mix things up a little bit, which would be nice.
Yeah. So moving on to the next match, we had Azumi and Danny Luna defeating the team of Kanji and Mina Shirakawa, 8 minutes and 58 seconds.
Well, not the biggest, expert on BritRes, and even less so when it comes to BritRes Joshi. And, at this point in time, I've seen enough Azumi and Mina Shirakawa to be somewhat familiar with them. I do feel like watching them in, say, like, what I liken it to? It's like if you're not watching Stardom regularly to see these girls, it's like the first time you saw Mayu in ROH. Like, it's just not the right style context to really, like, you get familiar with her, but you're not really seeing what she's capable of. And I feel like that's what we're getting with Azumi and Mina anytime we watch them in the States or in the UK. This match was fine. The big thing here, Mina, she's coming in as the champion in Rev Pro, and Danny Luna looking to set her up as the number one contender. She did do a really sweet jumping, like, karate kick right to the dome of Mina. I mean, she fucking whacked her with that. And then she got the clean win. So, they took this as an opportunity to establish a new challenger. I don't know that the crowd was really that into this. In fact, I don't think this was for a 1,500 crowd. They didn't sound like 1,500. Like, they got some chants off and stuff, but this was a very lackluster crowd. And you kind of don't want to see that when you're watching like a big British show in the afternoon. You want like the lads chanting, and they weren't going that hard on this show. But this match was fine. Fine little showcase. I'd go sub 3 stars though.
Yeah, I feel like Mina got a good reaction for the entrance, as well as Azumi. I feel like they knew who those women were, and there were some songs from Mina, but it wasn't as loud as you would expect for a crowd, like a UK crowd. And yeah, it was a fan match. I actually thought Kanji looked pretty good in the match. I don't think I've ever really seen her wrestle before, but I thought she moved pretty smooth and had some good interactions with Azumi. And like you mentioned, the big kind of surprise was Dani Luna pinning Mina, and guessing this is going to set up Mina probably defending that Rev Pro women's title against Dani Luna at whenever their next Rev Pro show is.
I'm sure it is. And yeah.
So then following that, we had the Japanese young punk, Kosei Fujita. He defeated the former Rev Pro British champion Michael Oku in 9 minutes and 57 seconds.
I'm going to ruffle feathers here, but I think Michael Oku sucks. I do, man. I do. I think this is a guy that has peaked and needed to get out of the UK like 3 or 4 years ago, and is just like, he's leveled out. Like, there was a point in time where when I looked at him, I was like, man, this guy has all the potential in the world. Look how athletic he is. Like, if he can just get a few things together, he's gonna make it. Nah, bro. Like, the look hasn't changed, the size hasn't changed, and the work has decreased, if anything. I mean, he is athletic, don't get me wrong, and he can do some flippy shit that's really cool. He can do some cool moves, but bro, his striking is shit. His selling is shit. And it's so glaring with him in there with a guy like Kosei Fujita to look at a guy who is just movement, Jeremy. I'm like delirious tonight. Just watching one dude run the ropes and then watching fucking Michael Oku run the ropes too, and like the happy feet and everything. It's like, bro, it's all over the place. And these guys were night and day, in my opinion, to one another. Match was fine. I wasn't overly impressed. I actually thought that this could have had potential to be one of, in fact, I'm probably going to say this about all the singles undercard matches. They all on paper looked like they should have been better than they were. And the one thing I was really surprised about, though, and maybe I shouldn't be, but Kosei Fujita just beat like the former world champion of Rev Pro, like a guy who had a really, really long, lengthy reign and was like, kind of established as like the tip top guy for their group. And yeah, he lost the title, but he's jobbing to Kosei Fujita. You would almost kind of think in kayfabe that should align Kosei Fujita to be a guy who's in the upper echelon of Rev Pro and maybe get a title shot off of it, but I don't think it's going to matter at all. I don't think anyone's going to remember or think about that in any like booking sense.
Yeah, I was a little bit surprised that Fujita got the win just based off what you said. Yeah, Michael Oku's been the top kind of flag bearer for the UK scene this past year, especially with Ospreay leaving and Zack doing more New Japan stuff. And had that big feud with Oku and Ospreay that led to Oku finally beating Ospreay, and Oku's pretty much cleaned out all the top challengers in Rev Pro before he dropped the title. And so yeah, you would think that, I get it, in New Japan eyes, obviously they see the size and they're like, yeah, this guy's a junior. And so, but still, I would think that with the partnership with Rev Pro, with them being like, hey, we just pushed this guy super hard. He was a champion for all of last year. Like, we want him to have get him a win or put him in there if it might be a top or a bigger name, like maybe Hiromu if you're doing a singles match for a junior. So yeah, that was a little bit surprising, but I guess, Kosei Fujita does have a strong open weight title match coming up at Fighting Spirit Unleashed. So maybe New Japan wanted to kind of get Vegeta a kind of a credible win there to make him look like a realistic threat for Gabe Kidd.
if they're anything like me, they saw this guy, just move in the ring. They're like, no way Fujita's losing this. Like, that shit's not happening.
Boy, no way, boy.
Unfortunately, like Michael Oku, if this was a decade ago, he would have had the super indies to go to, and he could have traveled the US and really honed his craft the same way that Ricochet and Will Ospreay were able to before they came to New Japan, so that they'd already gotten some of that finishing school so that they could take the next step and then really go through their graduate, but Oku doesn't have that thing to bridge the gap for him. Like, if he goes to New Japan, and I'm just telling you right now, he's not on the level of those guys in any sense, and he can't get there in the UK. He has to leave, but there's nowhere to learn the way there was before, because if you go to the US, you either, honestly, the best place he could probably go is NXT. He's the kind of guy that needs to go to NXT, because if he goes to AEW, he will not make it. And if he goes to New Japan, he won't make it. But if he goes to NXT, if they signed him, and I don't know if they would, but if they did, he'd at least get that sharpening that is needed to become a player, a guy that could go to the next level. And that going to NXT could even have some detriment to him, because how many like stellar performers have we seen them like just shrink them into this box and they never break out of it ever again?
Right. And also they'll see his size as well and be like, yeah, we're not doing anything with this guy.
But even if he went to NXT, like he would get molded into this performer. Like, he would never break back out. The same way there have been so many guys that went there and they got told to tone it down and they never became spectacular again afterwards,
Yeah. Yeah, I think if he does come to New Japan, hopefully it would be a deal kind of with Callum Newman, where they act there like he's like working in the dojo, pretty much, in between the tour dates and getting some work that way. There were rumors that he was signing with AEW. A lot of those rumors came up right before All In Wembley, that people were saying that he was signing. That's part of the reason why he dropped the belt. But he did win the number one contenders match on Global Wars the day before, so I don't know what his actual status is if he is going to AEW. So we'll see what happens.
That would be, AEW would be a mistake for him. If he went to New Japan, and I know this sounds so harsh, but I'm just being dead honest. He doesn't need to come into New Japan. Who did you say he needed to come in like? Similar to?
Newman, where he did like the Noge Dojo.
No, he needs to come in like Gabe Kidd.
Mm.
He needs to put on the black boots, the black trunks, and he needs to start from ground zero and become a young lion. He needs it. He's a guy that needs it. If he could get that, if he could learn to wrestle the way that the young lions do, and then combine that with his athletic prowess, then he could really become something special. But right now, it's not it, bro. Like, he's a tip-top level indie guy. Like, you could see him at the top level of any indie promotion, wrestling a top star like Will Ospreay or those guys that come in and work the champion. But he can't make it in a top league the way he works right now. He is so loosey-goosey all over the place, and it's bad. And it was okay when it was year one, but it's not okay after all of these years being a main eventer for this company and all the opportunities that he's had to expand his work and his repertoire. Yeah. And he's plateaued bad.
Yeah, I think another thing that's helped him out over the years is just one thing. He does have a lot of charisma, and he's had a connection to that Rev Pro crowd. And so a lot of his matches, he was able to kind of dive into that emotion of the matches because the crowd got behind him and wanted to see him succeed. So a lot of those Ospreay matches, you had a lot of those emotional moments where he's bleeding and the crowd wants to will him on. And so he was able to have that crowd reaction, that crowd connection that I think has made up for some of the lack of what we see in ring. But yeah, if he goes to an AEW, he's not going to have that crowd reaction. He goes to New Japan, he's not going to have that crowd reaction. So he's not going to be able to rely on that to help him get over.
Yeah. Like, there are certain, to kind of draw another comparison point, they talk about comedians and there's like comedians who are like local to an area, and they'll start telling jokes that are local to their home region, and it gets over with the audience where they are. But then like you travel to Massachusetts and you try to tell your Tampa jokes in Massachusetts and they're going to cheer you up. It's not going to work. And it's like in wrestling, there are certain acts that have gotten over in their own home promotion for that are specific to a time and place. I think of like Sandman in ECW.
Yeah.
I think of like Jimmy Havoc in Progress in his heyday, and like they just work in their place. They have a connection to the audience, but like we saw Jimmy Havoc on a national stage. We saw, and granted, I think Oku's a better worker than those guys, but like, what does Sammy Guevara not have that Michael Oku has? And Sammy's been struggling. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, why would AEW need Michael Oku? They got Sammy Guevara. They don't need, and he's much better than Michael Oku. And there's a lot of other guys that are high flyers that are much better than Michael Oku. What does he bring to the table character wise and all that that's going to get him over?
Yeah.
They got Ricochet.
Yeah. So I mean, Oku's also, I hope the best for him, and so hopefully there is something else for him out there, and he does kind of can get a deal where, like you mentioned, maybe Noge Dojo or maybe Performance Center to really kind of help him get to that next level.
Chonko, Black Boots, Boston Crabs, Hindu Squats. That's the recipe.
Yes. So Vegeta ended up getting the win here with a roll up. So they kind of played like an upset here, and so Vegeta, big win there. So then following that, we had the Gene Blast, Yota Tsuji defeating Drilla Maloney, 13 minutes and 55 seconds.
This was not as good as it should have been. It was fine, but if what we're looking for at this stage of the game in New Japan Pro Wrestling, in a stage where we're going to start talking about the exodus of Tanahashi and the exodus of Tetsuya Naito, and then you got all of this opportunity for someone to step in and become a star, and you got two guys that look like studs like Yota Tsuji and Drilla Maloney on a big stage in a singles spot with one another. You want to see more from both guys. And like, did they have presence? Was the crowd into them? Sure. But the match was nothing special to write home about at all.
Yeah, I agree with you. I was expecting a much better match of both of these guys, and I don't know what it was, but it seems like there might have been like some miscommunication between both of them, or they were just not clicking. But it just felt like he wasn't doing a lot of the cool stuff he does, and honestly, it kind of felt like Maloney was kind of eating him up a little bit at times, and it really controlled this match. And also, I was a little kind of baffled by that booking where in New Japan, yes, Drilla is jacked right now, but he's still a junior. He just lost the junior tag titles. And Yota Tsuji is a guy that's been a world title contender. He's a guy that we're trying to push to the top star. And he's kind of, in his 70-30 match with Drilla Maloney. And I get they're trying to lean back to the Rev Pro story of Drilla beating him twice when Tsuji was on an excursion. But like, times have changed now. Like, Tsuji is an established guy. He's the main eventer. He was just in the G1 finals. He was in the New Japan Cup finals. So, and I get that Drilla beat Naito this year with some shenanigans, but he still hasn't made the jump to heavyweight. So I feel like this should have been more of a Yota Tsuji showcase than this 70-30 him fight from underneath kind of matchup.
Yeah, I don't want to make it sound like neither of these guys can hack it. They obviously are both very, very talented wrestlers. And Drilla Maloney, when you look at him just from a presence standpoint and physical specimen standpoint, he's a guy that has the look of somebody that could potentially be a main event player in New Japan Pro Wrestling. We've talked about how with all of these guys that have left the company, that there's a wide open spot for, top foreigner roles. And you would think with him being a junior guy who could arguably be on the precipice of making that jump, that you would see a much better performance here. if I were to, granted, I'm not like the expert on wrestling, but if I were to make one suggestion for him in this match, he should have been bumping more.
Mm.
Like for me personally, I know you want to make the bad guy look strong and they need to have a good heat segment, but the best heels bump their asses off and bumble and make the good guys look like $1,000,000. He didn't do that for Yota Tsuji here. And Tsuji, for whatever reason, I don't know if maybe he felt like the spot was beneath him or working a junior. I don't know what it was, but he kind of treated it like a night off too. Like you said, like he wasn't getting his big shit in. This just was not a dynamic match. And it's disappointing because I think back to, like, for instance, here's like a good comparison point. You think back to like Strong Style Evolved, and you had like Hangman versus Jay White.
Mm-hmm.
And while that match wasn't like the greatest match in the world, it was probably a 4-star match on an undercard of the show for two guys that were hungry and looking to make a name for themselves. And look at where all they've done since then and where they are now. This match is the kind of match that should be that sort of thing. You should be looking back and be like, damn, remember 3 years ago when Tsuji and Maloney just randomly wrestled in the UK at Crystal Palace? But like, I don't know. The way things are going, if we do wind up there, we're not going to look at this match fondly and be like, yeah, that was a diamond in the rough.
Yeah. So yeah, I just don't know what it was. Even like the finish. So I mean, Tsuji gets the one with the Gene Blast, but like normally like Tsuji like kills people with that Gene Blast, and this seemed like a more kind of basic, almost like a little double leg tackle. And I don't know if like Maloney just didn't want to sell for this guy, didn't want to make the move look impressive, like you mentioned, bump for this guy. I don't know what it was, but it just felt like Tsuji's cool stuff just wasn't cool or impressive. And we just saw him, a couple weeks ago with Jeff Cobb, them doing cool stuff and getting over, and yeah, that wasn't happening in this match.
Yeah, I mean, last week someone on the show asked us about the new generation era of WWF, and it's like, we might not quite be in that era, but like we're definitely in like 92. Hulk Hogan's leaving, Ric Flair's leaving, Macho Man's leaving. Like these dudes are all about to leave, and who is going to be that Brett or that Shawn or that Razor, or those guys that like are hungry and gonna step up to the plate? And I love Tsuji, but like for as many hits that he's had misses, and this is another one of those misses. You can't be missing right now when like the door is wide open for granted, could this be telling us like, could there be some I almost wonder if there's a malaise because some of these guys know that they're not projected to do anything major for the Tokyo Dome, and it's already like on the books.
Mm-hmm.
But like, I don't know, that never stopped Ishii from being great.
Yeah.
And it never stopped Shingo from being great when he was just a junior guy, not projected to be anything in this company, and look at where he's at now,
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I feel like, I don't know if they were treating it like a house show, but like I feel like, especially for these guys, like every moment counts. If it's being televised, like you go out there and you grab the bull by the horn, especially like you mentioned, there's so many spots up for grabs and more to come with an eventual Naito retirement, Tanahashi's retiring in 2026. Like there's spots right there for the taking. And I feel like on a show like this, like you mentioned, like I get it. It's the undercard. It's only 1,500 fans in the UK, but you turn up and you get over and show people like, all right, like Tsuji, he's a man. He's the next world champion. Drilla, he's a man. He's a guy that can, pull an Osprey and convert to heavyweight and do a great thing, but they didn't do that here.
Yeah, I agree. And, I do think that there was some treatment of the show like it was a house show, because the work screamed house show.
Yeah. So moving on to the next match, we had the Roughneck Shota Umino defeating the Prince of Pace, Callum Newman, 16 minutes and 44 seconds. So the two Osprey disciples here, Newman got an upset win over Umino in the G1, and we've seen some back and forth on Twitter between these guys as well, all leading to this matchup.
I think one of the things that people were anticipating with this one was to see what the crowd reaction to Shota Umino would or wouldn't be. And I don't think it was overwhelmingly positive, but it was generally pretty good, especially compared to what happened to him just last week, in Tokyo.
Yeah, I think he started off like when his music hit and he came out, there was definitely big shooter chants and they were behind him. But as the match progressed, there were boos and he was getting a little bit booed and the crowd was a little bit more in favor of Callum Newman.
I thought, I'm maybe people think I'm crazy because I hear the way that people talk about Callum Newman to me makes me feel like they're seeing Michael Oku on the screen. And I don't fucking get it. I think that he is phenomenal, man. Like, he really is. Now, was this match, 16 minutes? This did not need to go 16 minutes. I really don't think it did. And I don't think that these guys hit the mark of what they were aiming to do here. But, like, if I had to tell you who I was more impressed with out of these two guys, it wasn't Shota Umino. It was Callum Newman. Like, there's some greenness there, but he just moves and works and sells like he's a fucking professional wrestler. He just looks like he gets it. Remember how people talk about, like, and granted, I don't think he has the same level of charisma as him, but like with the first few times people saw Logan Paul and they're like, he just gets it.
Yeah.
I think that's Callum Newman. I understand people don't like him because they feel like he's too aligned or close or similar to what they've seen out of Will Ospreay. And spoiler alert, guys, like, you're going to keep seeing that because Will's going to be probably the most influential wrestler of his generation.
Right, yeah.
You're going to see a lot of Will clones.
Yeah, we've already been seeing Will clones, and there's definitely going to be more. But, yeah, I think Newman is great. But I don't get the criticism with him because, he's put on the size. And, man, the way he runs the ropes and his speed is just crazy, and his athleticism. And so, yeah, I think he gets it. He connects with the crowd. He does a lot of cool moves. And, yeah, I thought he looked really good in his match. There was a lot of great exchanges between these guys. Towards the end, Newman was hitting a series of kicks, did a running knee for a great near fall, but then Shota was able to come back with that Rampage style DDT and then hitting the Death Rider to get the win.
Yeah, and for all the praise, I just this match didn't connect with me. It had a slower pace than it probably needed to. It lingered. This was one where they probably should have cut some of this match's time and kept it a tight, like, 12, and then given some of that time to one of the other matches. I don't know.
Yeah. We had a question from the Dark Soldier. He said, would going for an obvious heel who thinks he's a face be a step in the right direction for Shota?
He's saying an oblivious heel, sort of like a Kurt Angle or like a Bo Dallas.
Yeah.
And maybe, I mean, there was definitely some element of that when Tanahashi was facing some of the same issues in the early days of his main event run, where when he was a heel, he was a good guy heel who thought that he, he saw himself as a hero, even if he wasn't being responded to in that way. So maybe I don't know. I can't tell you if that's going to help him or not, but, like, there are just the comparisons between him and Naito they're there.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I think that would be a good direction to try. Yeah, I think him leaning super into, I'm the next ace, and the fans just booing him, and he's just doing the same kind of smiling promo, but getting it for heat. And let's get to that point where, he buries the crowd, but he's still, like, slapping hands and trying to kiss babies and being this ace hero. I think it could work. So moving on to the next match.
But you don't get to be the ace if you do that character. You have to find a way to overcome it, like Tanahashi did.
Yeah.
You know how you do that? Be great.
Grow your hair back.
That too.
Man. So next up, we had David Finlay defeating Taka Michinoku in 1 minute and 14 seconds. Before the match, we did have Finlay kind of cutting a promo on Taka and said, well, before you get to me, you have to face Gato. So we did have a little mini match with Taka and Gato, with Taka tapping out Gato with the just face lock, which then rolls right into the Finley Taka match, and it was just Finley squashing Taka.
Nothing really to complain about here. This is what this match should have been. I'm sure there are some Taka Michinoku fans out there who would have loved to see him get more shit in this match, and have his hope spots and all that. But this is what it needed to be. David Finlay is the number 2 guy in the company. He's got the white belt. He's wrestling Taka, who never wins. Like, he needed to squash him. That's what happened. And if we're upset about it, then we should be upset that they booked this in the first place.
Yeah, I mean, I get what they're doing. Also, they're trying to build heat for the upcoming Taichi title match. But yeah, it was kind of a weird match to book, to only do a minute, and then especially this was a match that surpassed an Umino match and a Tsuji match on the card. So yeah, kind of a little weird placement of booking there. But yeah, Finlay shows the dominance, destroys Taka, and I don't know. That's a nice little flight that he had to take to do that quick squash match.
Yeah, I wonder what kind of a price point they paid him for that show.
Yeah. So he gets the win. He gets a promo after the match, and so he's lining up to defend the title against Taichi at Power Struggle. And he also has a match coming up with Fighting Spirit Unleashed against Kevin Knight as well. So then,
I wonder who's going to win that one.
We have a question from Dark Soldier. He said, "Why couldn't they have booked Taka to beat Finlay? I'm a sad man."
That would have been shocking.
Yeah.
Can you imagine?
Yeah, that would have been nuts. I think, especially because I think it was Taka said it was like one of his first times in the UK. I think they should have given him a little bit more, but you want to establish Finlay as the kind of dominant guy, and so they what they had to do here. So following that, we had the LIJ team of Hiromu Takahashi, Tetsuya Naito, and Titan defeating the team of Robbie Eagles, Rei Oiwa, and Mascara Dorada in 11 minutes and 37 seconds.
Yeah, this was a good showcase match. Got the big LIJ stars on the card, or gave a spot to guys from Team DK, Mascara Dorada, the one, I guess aside from Titan, like the one, representative from CMLL that was on the show. Always dynamic, still, in my opinion, still very green, but he's so spectacular at the things that he does that, it really outweighs, where his shortcomings in that regard. But this was fine. I don't know that I was loving this tag match either. It had its moments, but even for an LIJ 6-man tag in the UK, you just kind of expect more. I don't know, man. Like, the show wasn't showing.
Yeah, it seems like it's just more, just again, kind of a house show style match. Play the crowd. You got the big T-shirt Naito chant, which I believe was started by Joel Super J Cass. So you had a big T-shirt Naito chant. You had T-shirt Robbie chant, and chant for Robbie to take his shirt off. And so you just kind of had a lot of like playing with the crowd. I did thought Titan and Mascara looked great, and they had a lot of great interactions throughout this match. But yeah, it was just kind of your 6-man, your LIJ house show 6-man matchup. And Titan got the win with the double stomp on Mascara Dorada. So I believe that they had a match recently in CMLL, or they have one coming up soon. So maybe they're feuding. So Titan getting a win here, so I'm sure that will play out in CMLL.
I couldn't tell you.
Yeah, I feel like I remember Dave talking about some tournament where they were like the 2 finalists or something like that. But
bro,
yeah.
I've been listening to Dave in so long. Not for any reason. I'm just like, I'm short on time. Like, I haven't had time to like listen to Observer for probably like 5 months.
We have a question from Tay Casey. He says, "Where do you go now with Naito in seemingly a post-main event Star World?"
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, I feel like maybe you start cashing in those LIJ chips, that they've been holding off on for quite a while. And then, I don't know, like, I would say go the Tanahashi route, tag teams, lower card titles, slowly move him down. But like, I don't know if he's got the legs for it. But like, I really don't know if he has the if I'm Tetsuya Naito, I'm probably so fucking pissed that Tanahashi not only announced his retirement, but said it's going to be a year-long deal, because now that puts impetus and pressure on you. Like, what are you going to do? Because you can't retire in the next year. He's all the spotlight and the company shine is going to be on Tanahashi and his exodus. And if you decide to like leave, it's going to be either going out just like one day being like, all right, I've retired, and then you just never show back up again, or you're going to be outshined by Tanahashi and you're going to be in his shadow. And so then it's like, you have to keep working. You have no choice. And maybe if you're a guy who's got, a bad eye, bad knees, bad back, bad neck, maybe that's not the place where you want to be for the next 3 or 4 years.
Yeah. So we'll see. I mean, I still think there's a chance that they go back to him for the Tokyo Dome main event and challenge Zack again. But
I'm not convinced they're done with him yet. I know a lot of people are like, that's it. That's his last run with the belt and everything. And maybe it is. But I've been caught on this show being like, he's done. That's it. And, business is business. And how many times have we seen companies that were required to go back to a drawing star even when they weren't in the best health? We've seen it time and time and time again. We saw it with Hogan, we saw it with Austin, Big Daddy, like the list goes on and on. There's a ton of guys that's happened.
Yeah, Ramos says I still need to make that yen. So if I would not be surprised if he walked out and challenged the winner at Power Struggle for the Dome or something like that, because he's a top draw. Also, Rainbow saying, who else sells tickets like him? Yeah, he's still a top draw. Still, LIJ is still merch movers. So you're not just gonna throw away a top star, even if he is broken down. Like, you're gonna keep going until he literally he cannot move, and he's still at least moving, but
you can't. And that's the problem. Like, it's very tempting to do that. And really that should be your last resort, not your primary, strategy. If that's your strategy, that's a strategy of dying companies. Say what you will about Vince. There's a lot of bad things you can say about Vince, but he always kind of knew early that it was time to start transitioning to like the next guy. And at this point in time, like New Japan, whether they've intended to or not, they haven't done that. And now's the time to start actually doing that. And there have been some positive signs this year, but like, now's really the time to like, if it was me, maybe Naito can do a couple other big main events, but he never touches the title again. And I'd probably think heavily about putting him in a tag team, having that tag team split up. Maybe they feud, maybe they do a title thing, with one of the other titles. Like, do what they did with Tanahashi,
Mm-hmm.
Never title, US title, tag titles, 6-mans. Like, there's a lot he could be doing out there. KOPW,
Yeah, I mean, him and Shingo, the tag team, is a kind of a super tag team similar to like Tanahashi and Ibushi. You kind of give them that super tag team run, give them the belts, and kind of have them do tag stuff for a while. I think it could work for a while.
Yeah.
So following that, we had the NJPW Strong Openweight Tag Team Title match. The champions of TMDK, Mad Mikey Nickel and Hysterical Shane Haste, they defeat Hiroshi Tanahashi and Tomohiro Ishii in 15 minutes and 58 seconds.
Yeah, I thought that this match, while it didn't necessarily live up to the level of what, in my head, I think a Tanahashi, Ishii, and Team DK match could hypothetically potentially be at one point in time, this was, in my opinion, a pretty strong co-main event, especially considering the level of show that we'd gotten prior to this. The crowd was very much into it. They were popping for all the big stuff. They treated all 4 guys like big stars that came out. And, Tanahashi looked motivated and as healthy as you could expect him to be at this point in time. They didn't rely overly on him. Ishii was out there doing his thing with, Mikey Nichols and Shane Haste. And I thought they had a pretty good tag match. And I'm glad TMDK went over, just because at this point in time, what sense would it make to have your world title holders drop the strong titles to, that would be so stupid. And they've done that before. And it's always stupid booking, because now the open weight champions are the number one, contenders for the world titles. They really just need to merge those particular, even if they don't do anything else. There's no point in having both belts if they're going to be on the same team. Just merge them. It's fine. Especially if that team has to. Here's a novel idea. I know that the open weight titles exist for those US dates. Just merge them and then have the IWGP tag team titles defended on those shows, because they're going to make the dates anyways.
Right. Yeah.
You don't need 2 belts.
Yeah. If they were being specifically used just in the States and you had like a strong exclusive tag team, fine. But that's not the case. Yeah. Half the time, both set of belts are on a team and then they still have to make the US date. So yeah, just unify titles.
Yeah.
But yeah, I thought this was a pretty good match. I loved, they didn't hit it perfectly, but I loved the brain buster high fly flow combo they did towards the end. And honestly, like in a different year, like that would have been the finish. Like combining those 2 moves, like that was awesome. But yeah, TMDK has kind of outmaneuvered Tanahashi and Ishii here. They hit a lot of their big signature tag team moves towards the end. They hit the tank buster and then the super tank buster on Ishii to get the win here.
There was one of those like clap crowd or empty arena shows. I can't recall, but there was a big match that kind of came out of nowhere. It was when the US title was sort of up for grabs, because I don't remember who got hurt, whether it was SANADA or Will Ospreay or Juice. Somebody got hurt. And they did an impromptu match between Tanahashi and Ishii on one of those like May Dontaku shows or something a couple of years ago. And I remember at the time, I think it was in 2022, maybe, it was 2022 for sure. And at the time I said I called that my match of the year. And I said that this is the last great Tanahashi match that we're going to see. And that's not to say that he hasn't had some quote unquote great matches, because he has. Like he's wrestled Jon Moxley since then. He's had some stuff that approached like that 4 1/4, 4.5 range. But like the Ishii match was this is a match of the year contender. This is over 9. We're talking about a close to 5-star range match, and he's never done it again with anybody since then. And like, the more as Tanahashi is, as we're approaching that time and we're gearing up over the next year, and then seeing him team with Ishii, I thought of that match in particular, and I'm like, yeah, it kind of rang poetic the way I said back then. Like, we're probably never going to see that level of performance from this guy ever again. And I don't think until like his final match, maybe we will, but like, yeah, he's never been able to get back to that level ever again, even with some big spots.
Yeah. I have a question here from Reddit user fecal_soup. Do you think Tanahashi is big enough to have his retirement show on a separate Tokyo Dome show from 1-4 a la Kijimuto? I figure the Ace is big enough to have his own show, but maybe the company is banking on that show being a complete sellout.
I don't know. I mean, Kijimuto didn't sell out the Tokyo Dome. I don't know that there's I don't think that there is a match that exists in Japan that can sell out the Tokyo Dome right now, unless something really changes in terms of business. I can't think of a single match in the world that could do that, unless like, I don't know. Do you think if The Rock wrestled in the Tokyo Dome, it could sell out?
Potentially, yeah. I would think so.
Maybe John Cena.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even know if that would. I don't think that there is a match that exists, though, in today's age that could sell out the Tokyo Dome. That being said, if over the next year or whatever it is, whenever it is that oh wait, well, I mean his final show is on the 1-4 show, right?
Yeah. At least that's what he said.
So
Yeah.
okay, gotcha. So he's asking, is he big enough to have his own Tokyo Dome show separately? I mean, sure they could, but why take the risk of doing that when you could just bolster Wrestle Kingdom?
Yeah, I would say maybe if it was like 2019, 2020, where New Japan was then, and I would say, oh yeah, you could definitely benefit. You know, you could do a double dome and yeah, do Tanahashi's one night, it's his show kind of thing, and then your regular Wrestle Kingdom. But I think where they're at right now, I think you want to draw as many people to a Wrestle Kingdom as possible, and saving that big dome show, I would just do it for Wrestle Kingdom. Tanahashi's last match, that'd be all over the posters, the big draw. You do a big opponent for him, and you try to pack that dome as much as you can that night.
Yeah, because I mean, doing a comparison, it's just so crazy because they're both sort of in the same similar spot all their careers, and then now they're both retiring in a similar manner. But you look at John Cena, and I think to myself, like, WWE, they're in a much different place financially and public interest wise. John Cena should probably have his own stadium show apart from a WrestleMania. It'd probably be bad business for them to not try and capitalize on John Cena's retirement by doing his own individual show. You look at like AEW, they did the Sting retirement, and like he had his own show, but then again, they don't really have their own WrestleMania. They could have tried to hypothetically bolstered Wembley and had his final show be at Wembley, but I feel like for them it wouldn't have really probably moved business that much differently unless he was in like a main event spot. So that's probably the best decision they can make. But right now, with how business is, I mean, do you risk it by what would be the better setting for him to retire other than the Tokyo Dome? So then now you're talking about 2 Tokyo Dome shows, and when is that one supposed to happen? You know, you're having to move everything in the calendar around to, kind of circle around Tanahashi, which I guess they could do that, but the Japanese scene's not even in the same place it was a year ago when Kijimuto had his retirement show.
Yeah.
I would find it harder like if next year they were to do that, I would find it very difficult for them to have enough star power across the entirety of all of Japan to do a worthy Tokyo Dome show for Tanahashi that would draw on its own.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm wrong in that, but I don't know. Maybe if AEW came in and helped bolster it, I don't know.
Maybe. Raymond says 1-4 is a Sunday in 2026. Got to be the plan to maximize that single show.
Plus, Tanahashi is Mr. Tokyo Dome. He's Mr. Wrestle Kingdom. Like, that's his show. That's his stage. It's not quite the same thing,
Yeah. Let's move on now to the main event. We had the IWGP World Heavyweight Title match. Zack Sabre Jr. defending the title against SANADA, defeating him in 25 minutes and 32 seconds.
I was shocked by this match, Jeremy.
Didn't like it?
No, I did not like this match. That's not to say it wasn't like a quote unquote good match. Like in terms of like technical proficiency, did they go out there and have a good match? Sure, they had a good match, but it's Zack Sabre Jr. and SANADA. You know what I mean? Like they got a template, they got a style of match. You know what to expect. We've seen it a million times, and I'm not even saying that they shouldn't deviate to some degree from the model and try to change it up and do something different. But it's such a successful model. You should only be deviating marginally. They went out there and they had a house show match, man. They did a classic, like NXT house show main event style match where the bad guy got his heat. There was a shine to start. There was a comeback. There was the cutoff. Like, they did a classic professional wrestling match, and then in the last 1 to 2 minutes decided to start doing all the counter shit that they're used to doing. I don't know if this was an aim or an attempt to try and prove that they're capable of having a New Japan style house show or house style main event. But this was so different from everything else they do. And I did hear some people say like they liked SANADA healing it up and playing to the crowd, and maybe that's why they deviated, because they thought the formula was going to be so different, considering Zack being the welcome hero. But like, I don't know, man. This might be like the worst match I think they've had together, in my personal opinion.
Yeah, I like the match. I'll say it. I don't think it was like a blow away like match of the year, and probably not one of the best matches they had. But I still enjoyed the matchup. And I thought toward the opening of the match, they did a lot of the counter stuff that they're used to doing. But yeah, then they kind of went a different path towards the middle with SANADA putting Zack's leg on the guardrail, hitting him in the knee there, and then really trying to work over the knee and get some heat that way. And Zack had to kind of fight through that pain, kind of fight from underneath and come back, and saw Zack hit the Zack driver. SANADA kicking out of that. He went for his the You Got Tangoed super Zack driver, but SANADA escaped that. And so ended up getting SANADA in the Clarky Cat to get the submission victory.
Yeah, he picked up the victory there. There's some, maybe I am being too harsh, but I grade these guys on a different scale. I still, let me backtrack a little bit. I do think it was match of the night. So I do think it was like, if I had to put recommendations on anything that was worth actually, going at, probably just the co and the main event were the only two matches I would say, like, go out of your way to see them. But like, considering that it's Zack Sabre Jr. in his first run with the world title in returning to the UK, and given the fact that it's one of his most classic opponents that we have seen basically nothing but greatness from this pairing over the years, time and time again, it just seemed like such a slam dunk case of like, we're gonna see a classic match. I didn't think that was a classic match, in my personal opinion. And I don't think it's a great way to start off Zack's run with the title, which might only last till January.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know who called the shots there, who laid that out. If they're happy with it, hats off to them. But I was not sports entertained personally.
We had a question from Les Commission 7252. How much value has SANADA lost since losing the world title? With his loss, it does feel like this was his last chance of competing for the IWGP World Heavyweight Championship.
It's dropped a lot. And one thing I can't claim to take this thought, but I also can't credit who it came from, because I don't recall. But I saw someone on Twitter today basically point back to, and I thought that some of the point, I don't remember who it was, but some of the points they made I felt were a little bit too weighted in this direction. But they had a good point. A lot of the drop off for SANADA really started with that House of Torture feud at the tail end of the year last year after the G1.
Mm-hmm.
And like, granted, I do think that there are more shortcomings that were very prevalent throughout the course of that title reign that some of the SANADA truthers and diehards are unwilling to, admit to. And so maybe it is easier for them to just point everything to evil into the House of Torture. And I don't think that's fully the case, but like, damn, bro, he went from a guy that literally was undefeated in his block in the G1 last year to like looking like a guy that doesn't belong ever touching the belt ever again, like a little over a year later.
Mm-hmm.
And he's lost a lot of value. And I had said at the time last year that they made a really good call in using him as a guy that could bridge the gap between the young generation and the fading stars. And I don't think he's even going to be able to do that personally. Like, I don't think he has that much value to being able to work with a Shota Umino or a Uemura. Like, I don't want to see those matches. In fact, like, do I like SANADA? Sure, but good little tag team guy. But he's cooked, bro. And one of the biggest L's I'll ever take on this show was how geeked up I was when SANADA beat Okada for the title and revamped his look and started Just Five Guys and yada yada yada. And he's not anywhere near what they had portrayed him to be at that time.
Yeah, I mean, I was right there with you. Yeah, I also was digging him beating Okada, the new look, the new gear, the music, the suits, and yeah, I thought they did everything they could to make him look like a world champion and be a main eventer. And then following up with that, the dominant G1 win, main event in Tokyo Dome, getting to heights that people never really expected him to get to, and then it's the big drop off. And I don't know if that's just because maybe some of the booking, like he doesn't feel motivated because he's not in the main event picture right now, or maybe he is cooked. I don't know, but I do think for him, like I can just see him just kind of being a challenger of the month kind of guy once a year. Like you need somebody to get like a solid defense in, so you just kind of throw him out there. I have a hard time seeing him ever be champion again and them going in that direction ever again.
Yeah.
Les Commission also asked, he said, Royal Quest wasn't bad, but it was underwhelming. None of the matches were bad, but the card was a letdown. Does the show have a valid excuse since there weren't any strong matches on the card?
I mean, we've already, in a roundabout way, I feel like answered this question just by reviewing it and kind of giving our unbridled thoughts. It's pretty clear that there were issues here, but I think a lot of it boils down to the brand isn't hot like it was. The audience didn't seem to be bought in the way that you would hope and expect for a UK crowd. When I watch a big UK show like this, I want NXT UK, like where they're doing the chants and going crazy and everything, or like the Rev Pro show last year where it was or actually bro, that was this year, that show where Will Ospreay fought Oku for the title. Like that's one of the most special crowds I've ever heard. This was, they were there. I don't know. And a lot of it does come down to marketing. It comes down to booking. It comes down to a lot of things, honestly. Yeah. But this wasn't a slam dunk show, top to bottom. But on paper, it looked like a show that was a sleeper. Like this one could really cook and kind of exceed our expectations. And guys weren't going out there hungry to do that the way like you would hope they would. I was hoping we got like the Dynamite after All Out, where everyone was like, we got a fucking point to prove, and
yeah,
they had that great Dynamite.
Yeah, I mean, there's just a lot of stuff on the undercard that could have been better. Vegeta Oku, Suji Maloney, Umino Newman. Like, there's a lot of stuff that maybe had that stuff been stronger, SANADA and Sabre being weak wouldn't have been as bad. But when a lot of the undercard was just kind of fine and good, and then you end with like that title match just being a good match and not like a super great match that they're used to having, then it's like, yeah, this show's just kind of it was there.
Yeah, and honestly, like there's other disappointments, like very few story progressions. One thing we did forget to mention, the Grizzled Young Vets did come out on the Titantron and make it known that they're next in line for TMDK, but I think they're next in line for the openweight titles. It's probably
fighting
going to be in the US.
Unleashed. Yeah.
So this show in many ways reminds me of those early Saudi shows for WWE, like Crown Jewel and shit, like where, it's non-canon. Like it kind of is, but not really. But they're not getting paid Saudi money. I mean, at this point, like, I made a joke, like if we're going to do this, like, everyone else taking the Saudi money, like New Japan, if Inoki was around, they'd be talking to some princes over there,
Rambone says, it broke the chain of very good big shows that stretched back to the spring. Got to be a letdown.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, and I'm glad that some of our listeners are feeling this way too, because I feel like a lot of people think that we can sometimes be too critical or, too hypercritical and kind of bury the product. But
do they? I don't ever hear anything anyone says about us.
I don't know. I feel like sometimes I'll see comments like last week. There was a YouTube comment about us, burying Umino, how we love to bury Umino, and I replied back. I was like, hey man, like I don't want to have to bury Umino. I would love to come on here and not bury Umino and put him over, but I just kind of listed out all the stuff on why we went in on him, and then afterward he's like, oh yeah, you're right, and kind of like more agreed with me, and I'm just like, I just seen a lot of people kind of like, oh well, they can be negative sometimes, blah blah. I'm like,
so
I'm like, we are going to tell the truth. Like, obviously, we love New Japan. We've been doing this podcast for 7 years now. Every week, haven't missed a week. But just because we love the product doesn't mean we're not going to be critical. Like, we are going to analyze it. We're going to break it down. We're going to be critical and tell you what we actually feel. It's not all sunshine and rainbows just because we like this show.
Do you remember those 1-800-CONTACT commercials with like, use your special eyes? I feel like that's people where they're like, they're criticizing us for watching the show and then telling the truth about it, like Will Smith in Concussion, tell the truth, But my answer to those people is use your special eyes, bro. Open your eyes,
Open your third eye.
Open your third eye, like my trainer Matt Seidel says,
Oh man.
But and if you don't like what the fuck we say, you don't gotta fucking listen to us. I couldn't give a shit if you listen to us.
No. Keep hitting that download.
Remember that time? Who had that rants? That time rants.
Oh,
The time when it's been so many years now. We could probably joke about it, and I don't even know if he'll ever hear about this. But the time where Jordan Fox and Rance were doing the show together, and. And they were reviewing the match where the crowd turned on Jinder Mahal and Roman Reigns, and like Rance lost his shit so bad. Like he lost his shit so bad. He's like, "Don't listen to this show. Fuck y'all." And then Jordan was like, all right, we're going to take a break. And then when he came back from break, he was like, well, we want to thank Rance for all of his years here. And he fired him.
Oh my gosh.
He fired him off of the podcast because he went too hard on the fans for turning on Jinder and Roman. It's one of my favorite things that's ever happened.
Legendary audio.
Oh, God.
Oh man. Well, that was Royal Quest 4. Following Royal Quest 4, the next big show is going to be Power Struggle, which will be in Osaka on Monday, November 4th. We got some matches announced for that card last week. So it is going to be IWGP World Heavyweight Champion Zack Sabre Jr. defending against the never Openweight Champion Shingo Takagi. It'll be SANADA versus Shota Umino. We'll have the Super Junior Tag League 2024 Finals. IWGP Global Champion David Finlay will defend against Taichi. IWGP Junior Heavyweight Champion Doki will defend against Master Wato. TMDK will defend the IWGP Heavyweight Tag Team titles against Hanare and Great Okan. And Tanahashi and ELP will take on Evil and Ren Narita.
One thing, I don't want to forget this before we talk about this. Two last things about the previous show. Will Ospreay was in attendance. I don't know if you saw that.
No, I didn't see that, no.
Yeah, everyone was in the Discord talking about like Will's there, and like people were getting so fucking hyped because they thought that Will was gonna come out and like challenge Zack maybe like for the Tokyo Dome. And then when he never made an appearance and he was in the building, people were fucking pissed. And then, there was also like the rumors that are kind of out there about SANADA and, him being in a main event spot. People were like, is this going to lead to something? And it didn't lead to anything. So I felt like the way they ended the show with the big TMDK send off, people were a little disappointed in that part too. So just want to get that out there. But this show in general, it looks pretty good. I think the match that is maybe more so talked about than any other match on the card is SANADA Shota Umino, because that's a top, match between two big name guys that are both sort of in the title picture right now. Obviously, Shingo's getting the title shot. SANADA just lost to Zack, so it's hard to imagine that he'll be getting another title shot. So it don't like people are talking like, does this look like Umino is getting geared up for a title shot?
Yeah, and
is this a preview for the Tokyo Dome?
Yeah, and there was a press conference last week before Royal Quest where Zack and SANADA agreed, like, if SANADA had won, and like SANADA would have defended against Umino, and then if Zack won, he would defend against Shingo. So Zack won here, so he's defending against Shingo. So yeah, that could have been a title match. And yeah, we have a question from Trish from the Trish and Sarah Wrestling Podcast here on the Social Suplex Podcast Network. It says, how real is the prospect of Shota versus Zack in the Dome looking at that Power Struggle card?
It's very real, and if it happens, I'm telling you right now, they don't main event.
I mean, I don't know. I have a hard time seeing them go that direction.
When are they going to wrestle?
Well, there's Fighting Spirit or Strong Style Evolved in December.
They could fight at Strong Style Evolved, possibly. And if that's the way we go, then that means that Shota Umino is being geared up to be put on a pedestal to fall just before Wrestle Kingdom again, like he's done the last 2 years in a row, maybe 3 if I think back hard enough. But like, this is a guy that keeps getting geared up for big title shot, opportunities at the tail end of the year, and then he falls flat in his face failing, and then he gets to the Dome and he has nothing to do.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering, like, is that, and hey, if that's where they see him and that's how they want to utilize him, fine. I'm just wondering if that's realistic that they're going to do that to him again, and if he's going to become that third quarter of the year guy like Evil used to be.
Yeah, maybe that's going to be his role. But yeah, I just have a hard time seeing them do Zack and Umino at the Dome, and then definitely, if it's like you mentioned, if that match is happening, it's not going to be the main event.
Oh, for sure. Like, that's the thing. With the theory that I keep, and I'll keep pimping it on this show, that, if Zack is in the main event, he's wrestling another main eventer. The one thing that I have said a few times in the past, but I think I've gotten away from, is like, there's always the possibility he just doesn't main event as the world champion. And then he's Ultimate Warrior in 1990. While Hulk Hogan is doing the headline matches, he's wrestling Mr. Perfect on the undercard. Same thing. It's CM Punk, that whole year where he held the title, he barely headlined any pay-per-views. It was always John Cena was the real champion,
Yeah.
That could be Zack at the Tokyo Dome, headlining with the belt, Jericho versus CM Punk. But the real main event is Rock Cena,
Yeah.
That could happen here.
That could happen, but I don't know. I'm really leaning towards Strong Style Evolved. They've been making a lot of teases on social media that Strong Style Evolved is going to have a play into the Tokyo Dome being the last stop before Tokyo Dome. Both Zack and Umino are like front and center on the poster for that show and advertised for that show. So I think what I'm seeing is Zack beating Shingo at Power Struggle. Both
Moxley comes out.
Moxley
to save his son.
Puts the bag on Zack's head.
Puts the bag on Zack's head. Then you think to yourself, you're like, oh shit, we're getting title versus title. Nuh-uh. Hold up, player. You're getting a tag team match. It's gonna be Umino and Mox headlining against the two greatest technical wrestlers of their generation, Bryan Danielson and Zack Sabre Jr. That's gonna be your main event. You're gonna like it.
Yeah. I mean, I guess that's an option. But yeah, I think it's gonna be Umino Zack at Strong Style Evolve, and then they're gonna do Zack versus whoever at the Tokyo Dome.
Well, I since we're just ripping here, could be Tanahashi.
Could be.
We had said in the past it wouldn't be Tanahashi, right? But with him retiring in a year, and if you wanted to give him his one last title main event in the Dome before he retires next year, now could be the time. And we already know that basically every single time Zack and Tanahashi wrestle, it's still fantastic, even in this day and age. Like, if there's one guy that could carry Tanahashi to a classic Tokyo Dome main event, it's Zack.
Yeah, and Tanahashi did say it is his goal to, try to get the title one more time. And so, yeah, that could be a great scenario where, Zack beats Shingo, he beats Umino, and then, Tanahashi comes out, and the president says so.
Tanahashi would be like that's the most classic Vern Gagne style pro wrestling, like the Booker just putting himself in the main event, making he's run out of ideas, so we're gonna go back to Old Faithful, put myself on top, I win the title, I beat everybody, I'm the only one I could trust to carry this company.
Bro, what if he does win the belt and the whole year is him?
Oh man, I don't even know.
He pulls that Bryan Danielson, and he holds the belt on his retirement and just goes the whole year winning with the belt.
Yeah, that could happen. Oh man. Doc in the Discord also asked, he said, ZSJ pretty much a lock for Wrestle Kingdom, but what if Shingo wins? Then Shingo's a lock for the Tokyo Dome. That's what happens.
Yeah, I don't know what you go with the main event there. I guess if Shingo wins, I'd probably go Shingo Naito.
Shingo's not winning, but if they did, if he won, then it'd be like, fuck you, Will. There's the most pointless title reign and title win in this company's lineage so far.
Yeah. Well, also coming up, we got Super Junior Tag League 2024. So this is going to take place across 8 shows from October 24th through November 2nd. The finals being held at Power Struggle. Tournament consists of 12 teams with 6 in the A block, 6 in the B block. And this is the first dual block Super Junior Tag League since they've rebranded the tournament from the tag tournament to a league.
I missed the tournament. I wish they would I liked the tournament personally.
So, I agree. I think for this division, I think the single elimination tournament worked out better versus doing the league.
Yeah. The one thing is with round robin, you can have a more you can have odd numbers of teams, whereas like with a single elimination, unless you're doing like the buys, which buys suck, but unless you're doing buys, you have to have like either 8 or 16 teams.
Yeah. Well, here's what the field looks like. So in the A block, we have the former champions, Clark Connors and Drill Maloney. Got Sho and Yoshinobu Kanemaru, Robbie Eagles and Kosei Fujita, Hiromu Takahashi and Bushi, Risuke Taguchi and Dragon Dia from Dragon Gate, and Tiger Mask and Captain Suicida from CMLL. Then over in the B block, we got Kushida and Kevin Knight, the champions, the Jet Setters. We got Catch 2-2, TJP and Francesco Akira. We got Yo and our good friend Rocky Romero. Got the DKC and Ninja Mac, Taiji Ishimori and Robbie X. And then Paris Da Silva and Jude London, the Velocities. And we had a lot of questions here, kind of very similar. So Rambo is saying, I believe the Super Junior Tag League is War Dogs to lose. I see them winning as the next logical accomplishment for them in that division after holding the titles for such a long time. Who else do you see as favorites to win the whole thing? Les Commission 7252 says, who are your picks to win and runner-ups from each block? I believe at the end of the day, we will see a multi-man tag match at Wrestle Kingdom for the junior titles. And Def Triangle 720 says, who are your picks to win Junior Tag League?
Yeah, so I guess just my general thoughts, and hopefully this answers some of those questions. I think by and large, a majority of the teams that we see here are either sort of just makeshift teams that really don't have a lot of skin in the game. They probably aren't going to mean much moving forward. Then you have your teams of like established New Japan guy teams with a fun partner from outside who is likely not coming to the company long term. And those are good to kind of mix things up. But you do have a couple little wrinkles of people that are probably looking to impress, make a name for themselves, maybe open up the door to return for more dates down the line. Looking at, Robbie X as one of those guys in particular. Same thing with the Velocities. That's another team. It's probably a good sign that they've decided to bring Ninja Mac back.
Yeah, and what I'm hearing is he's done with Noah, so I think that this could be him coming into New Japan.
But in terms of teams that I think could realistically win, I would say out of the A block, the War Dogs are my number one pick. Beyond that, really, I guess I could see Eagles and Fujita being potential winners, and to a lesser degree, Hiromu and Bushi, but I think that ship's almost passed. I feel like your top two teams that have the best shot would be those two. Maybe your dark horse would be Sho and Kanemaru, just because they like to push House of Torture.
Right, and they could easily cheat to win to get the advantage.
But I mean, I think War Dogs are like your number one pick out of that group easily for me.
Yeah, I agree.
And then in B block, I mean, Kushida and Kevin Knight, they need to do respectable, but they shouldn't really be winning it. I'd be shocked if they did as champions. But with TJP and Francesco Akira there, that's one they've got so much success in this division. It's hard to overlook them. And then, Ishimori coming in with Robbie X, that doesn't scream tournament winners to me, but Ishimori is a guy that they've trusted in the past, and maybe that's a team they could go with. I'm not banking on it, but I think your top two teams are either TJP and Francesco Akira or War Dogs, probably.
Yeah, right now I'm thinking War Dogs are gonna win the whole thing. They drop the belt. I think that's a great way for them to rebound and then get them a spot in the Dome. From the B block to face them in the finals, I could see them doing Jet Setters winning that B block. When you do Jet Setters versus War Dogs, they beat them in the finals, and then you do the third match at the Tokyo Dome.
Yeah, Gato likes to do that, so they could easily do that. Plus, with it being a league, we've seen crazy scenarios in the past where, like some of our esteemed listeners have mentioned, we could still wind up with a multi-man tag match. I mean, look at the year the Young Bucks showed up. We're just like, fuck all this noise. We're inserting ourselves into the tag team title match.
Yeah.
So stuff like that can happen. You just never know. Is it set up to where just the winner of each block just faces off? We're not doing any of the weirdness from G1 this past year?
From what I understand, it's just going to be winner of the A block or the winner of the B block will face off at Power Struggle.
Okay. Well, what would your ideal A block, B block match be if you had the book, Jeremy? Because I know what mine is.
I think I would either do War Dogs and Catch 2-2, or I would do Ichiban Sweet Boys and Catch 2-2.
For me, I think it's pretty easy. I've got I think War Dogs are going to win the whole thing. I don't think that there's a better set of young, fresh, plucky underdog baby faces than the Velocities. That if I want to have a super compelling match that establishes all guys, I have the Velocities go to the finals against War Dogs and then lose.
That could be the call.
That's what I would do. I don't think they'll do it. But if you got any balls out there, Gato, and you're listening to this right now, you're gonna do right by my boys, Paris Da Silva and Jude London.
Yeah, those guys are awesome, and they've been having a lot of great matches over the years. They had a great series with Aussie Open a few years ago, so yeah, it's great to finally see them here in New Japan.
Well, with all that being said, we have Super Junior Tag League Road to Power Struggle, 4 shows over the next week before we return. And it looks like on this tour, some cool stuff. We got Daiki Nagai and Masatori Yasuda back doing their Young Lion series, wrestling against one another. So that's exciting. But we're going to mostly focus on the tag team matches here. So on night one, you've got are all of these tournament No. Okay, so we've got quite a few preview matches throughout the tour. It looks like Jacob Austin Young is back on the tour, so that's cool. But in terms of tournament matches on night one, you've got Capitan Suicida and Tiger Mask versus LIJ. Second match, you've got House of Torture versus the War Dogs, as well as Dragon Dia and Taguchi versus TMDK. On night two, 10/26, for tournament matches, we have the Velocities versus Chaos, Ninja Mac and DKC versus the Bullet Club, and then your main event, you have Catch 22 versus the Intergalactic Jet Setters. That one always delivers, so that's a big one to look out for.
Yeah.
Night three, they are coming to us from Cork and Hall. You've got actually, we got Super Junior Tag League the whole night through,
Yep.
so that's cool. So you got Capitan Suicida and Tiger Mask versus House of Torture, Ninja Mac and DKC versus the Velocities, Dragon Dia and Taguchi versus LIJ, Intergalactic Jet Setters versus Bullet Club. It looks like there is one match breaking up everything here, where it's Jado, Wato, and Umino versus just five guys, Doki, Sanada, and Taka. So the return of Master Wato there in Cork and Hall.
Yeah, so a double preview there, a preview for Wato and Doki, and a preview for Umino and Sanada.
Nice. Your semi-main event of the evening, TMDK versus the War Dogs. And then your main event, you have Catch 22 versus Chaos, Rocky Romero and Yo. So big ups to Rocky, putting himself over big in Corkin. You know what I'm saying? Main event.
Yeah.
And then on 10/28, second night from Corkin Hall, you've got Velocities versus Catch 22 in the opener. Tiger Mask and Suicida versus the War Dogs. Ninja Mac and DKC versus Jet Setters. Dia and Taguchi versus House of Torture. LIJ versus TMDKs. Okay, so another preview match in the same spot just before the top two matches. So you got Shingo and Tsuji taking on Oiwa and Zack Sabre Jr. previews for Power Struggle.
Mm-hmm.
And then your semi-main event, Chaos versus Bullet Club. And then the main event, LIJ versus TMDK. And that is going to do it for our preview for the next. Anything you're really looking forward to there? Anything notable that you're seeing?
Well, also like you mentioned, like the War Dog Catch 22, War Dog Jet Setters Catch 22. We know those matches always kind of delivers. Looking forward to that. I'm curious to see what Rocky is going to be looking like in this tournament with Yo. Also, we know their history of Pungi 3K, and Rocky's been wrestling all over the world, and usually he kind of turns it up when he comes to Japan. So it would be cool to see him and Yo put on some
we might be counting that team out a little bit, just given how much success Rocky's had in this division. Yo's returning from injury.
Mm-hmm.
We already kind of know the heartbreak that was there when he went down with that injury when he was challenging for the title. Now he's back. And they're doing some main event spots, two big matches in Corkin back to back. So
yeah.
Night
3 at Corkin, I think Jet Setters against Robbie X and Ishimori could be really great.
That's another one too. Yeah. We talked about the Bullet Club team might get pushed, but they're given some high-end spots on the card as well. So just some interesting things to keep your eyes on. Based on what I'm seeing, it doesn't look like, I'm saying Velocity should go far, but it doesn't look like it's going to happen that way just based on card alignment. You never know, but we'll see.
Yeah.
Jumping into the news, Fighting Spirit Unleashed streams on NJPW World as a pay-per-view on Friday, November 8th. The announced lineup to this point is the NJPW Strong Openweight title as Gabe Kidd defends against Kosei Fujita. There's a 4-way number 1 contender match between Anna Jay and 3 to-be-determined contenders. The winner gets their next shot at the NJPW Strong Women's Champion, Mercedes Moné. Kenta will be wrestling Ryohei Oiwa. David Finlay versus Kevin Knight in singles action, and then Mustafa Ali versus Leo Rush. The Intergalactic Jet Setters defended the IWGP Junior Tag titles at MLP Forged in Excellence against the Rogue Squadron of El Reverso and Aiden Prince, as well as Brent Bakes and Johnny Swinger. RepPro Global Wars UK took place on 10/19. The results were as follows. LIJ, Hiromu, and Teton defeated Callum Newman and JJ Gale. Hiroshi Tanahashi, Leon Slater, and Zazoya defeated Connor Mills, Gabe Kidd, and Jay Joshua. Yota Tsuji defeated Mascara Dorada in singles action. Zack Sabre Jr. defeated Robbie X in singles action. And the RevPro British heavyweight title was on the line as Luke Jacobs defeated Tomohiro Ishii by referee's decision, 21 minutes and 4 seconds. That match probably fucking ruled. Did you see any of that?
No, I didn't see any of it. I heard somebody say that the Ishii Luke Jacobs match was great, but not as great as their previous matches. But I think it's probably still worth checking out.
You know, I like me a referee decision stoppage. So
yeah, I kind of want to see Tsuji and Dorada. Hopefully that. I mean, if both of them had their working boots on, like that could have been a pretty cool match as well.
Sure.
We got a few questions here, and then we'll get to recommended match of the week and get out of here. So, first from Pero Silence says, I'll be visiting Japan, and I was lucky enough to buy a ticket to Power Struggle. I've been to plenty of Canadian and American wrestling shows, but it'll be my first time at a live Japanese one. Anything I should keep in mind? Are they cool with cameras? And what's the thing you'd recommend for how to get the most out of the experience?
Oh man, I don't know. I've never been to Japan.
Yeah, so yeah, we have not been.
You should talk to the guys over at fucking JCast. They go to Japan. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, also just from watching, I would say one of the big differences also is, you know, in Japan they're not trying to get themselves over. There's not, you know, unless it's like a super smarky Korakuen show, you're not getting like this is awesome chants, fight forever. You're not getting any of those like indie-rific chants. Be prepared to like kind of ooh, ah, clap.
Yeah, the biggest thing, they typically, my understanding, they do have I don't know if they still do this, but they did it for a long time where they have the pre-show videos that showcase what is and is not proper etiquette at their wrestling shows, you know? And I would say err on the side of respectfulness. Be as respectful as you possibly can be. This is something that is not generally considered or thought of too much in the West, especially at a wrestling show where people are very like belligerent and loud. And I mean, I'm you know, I'm guilty of that myself, but that's the decorum that's expected at a Western wrestling show. Whereas you go to a Japanese wrestling show in Japan in the East, and it's not like that. You know, it's very respectful. You know, people don't bring signs. You know, you don't stand up in front of and block other people's views. You know, your language. You know, that's something you need to be thinking of. There is the concept of the ugly Western American, and you don't want to be kind of cataloged or seen as one of those types of fans. So, you know, pay attention to your surroundings, pay attention to what other people are doing, and, you know, go with the flow, you know, as they say, when in Rome.
Next question here from Doc says the Junior Tag League is all well and good, but who does NJPW bring in to challenge Doki with Mystico losing it? Goes up in the air, and I believe Teton might be the right man for the job.
Yeah, potentially. Because we're getting Doki and Wato at Power Struggle?
Yes.
I think Wato's beating Doki.
I mean, it's a possibility unless they do the whole, you know, coming back from injured, he's not 100% ready yet.
They could. I think Wato wins. I'm pretty sure that going into the Tokyo Dome, if Wato is still champion, then we'll get Wato Desperado or some sort of multi-man match. If Wato's the champion, we'll probably get Wato Desperado.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm having the feeling of some kind of 4-way. So even if Doki loses, I could see it being like Wato, Despi, Doki, and somebody else in a 4-way to get some juniors on that card.
Yeah, and they're going to have stars from AEW, ROH, CMLL there too, so it's hard to say at this current time. But yeah, I mean, Teton wouldn't be a bad way to go, but it's not like the sexiest like match on paper. It might be for the hardcores, but I mean,
that's a sicko match.
Yeah, that's a main event in Cork and Hall, or maybe not even in Cork and Hall, like in like Ota Ward Gymnasium on like night 6 of Super Juniors,
Mm-hmm.
Where like, oh, this is gonna be really good, but they're not doing that in the Tokyo Dome, I don't think.
Yeah. Barry Walsh, just another follow-up on Tanahashi retiring. I instantly thought Nakamura 2 as his last opponent, but on that I have to ask, has Tanahashi have so much goodwill that it could happen, or do you think Tony Khan, based on what you see and know about him, possibly try to stop any WWE involvement, or is Tanahashi above all that?
I don't know. Like, I don't think that there will be any WWE involvement. I don't think that they have any desire to have WWE involved necessarily, or I don't think WWE has any like desire to be involved or have their people involved in it. But could it happen? Sure. I don't think that Tony Khan has the stroke to stop it from happening. I mean, we've seen WWE, interactions with Noah on the same cards as New Japan talents that were on those Noah cards just recently as like a month or two ago. So, there have been some slight tinges of crossover in that regard in the past.
Yeah, I don't think Tony Khan would try to stop it or have a problem with it. I mean, it's like Tanahashi's send off, and like if you're able to make it work out, I mean, Nakamura is a very meaningful opponent, and I mean, we've seen WWE being a little bit more open to doing that kind of stuff. I'll see with Vince being gone, so I think it's a slim possibility, but I think it could happen. Barry also asked, considering champion versus champion matches have a unique and special atmosphere, do you think with so many champions in New Japan who fight for other belts that it tarnishes all the titles? Like when Okan fought Naito and is now going for the tag belts against the double champs. Also, Shingo wants to fight the champion as never champ. Do the KOPW and the never belt to a degree, along with the strong belt, actually damage the prestige of the world title and white belt?
No, I don't think those damage the prestige of the top titles when that happens. I think it damages the prestige of all the other titles underneath.
Mm-hmm.
Because the world champion always wins, obviously.
Right. And it's like, all right, what is the point then of having these other titles if you're not using them, and they're just going to go and try to have dual championships and go off the world title? And then, yeah, sometimes a multi-champion storyline's cool, a belt collector kind of thing, but you have all these titles, you give them a purpose and utilize them all.
Yeah, I mean, WWE ran into this issue for a long time, especially in the mid-2000s, then the 2010s, where you got title versus title and champion versus champion matches on regular TV all the time. And, AEW is running into the same issue where their top title, from my understanding, just looking back, has defended or will defend this year against both all the other men's singles titles within the same calendar year, which is not, in my opinion, that's not special, especially if you're not doing big business with it or anything like that. And New Japan has kind of fallen into the same conundrum where we've seen quite a bit of that. I don't know. I grew up a kid reading 80s magazines and, dreaming about seeing Bob Backlund and Ric Flair from the Omni in 82 and how special that match must have been. No one's ever seen it because there's no tape of it, but like shit like that used to be like the stuff that people would, talk in hushed tones about. And, it's not like that anymore.
Yeah.
But I think it shouldn't really be happening that regularly, honestly.
Yeah, you want to treat each title as a special attraction, and you can, if you do it correctly, you can build each title up to where it draws, and each title is special. And then, yeah, you do that once a year or once every couple of years, big show where it's like, oh, here we go. Like this, the never champions facing the world champion. This never happens. It's a rare champion versus champion showdown. And then you make a big deal about it.
Yeah. Time and place for everything. But yeah, I don't think it hurts the top belts. I think a lot of other things that they've done over the past few years have hurt the top belts, but not this particular thing.
Yeah, like unifying the IC in the world and getting rid of lineage.
That, Dolph Ziggler. Yeah, destroying the US and the UK title. Well, fuck the UK title, but the US title, Kenny Omega's world title, they just fucking destroyed it. Ridiculous. After that long ass stretch where like Will Ospreay went out of his way to make that like one of the most desirable and important belts in the company, and they fucking destroyed it.
They said, nah.
They destroyed it with a sledgehammer.
Nuts.
Yeah.
Well, that's it for the questions. Last thing here, recommended match of the week. So from a couple of weeks ago, the DPW Carolina Classic 2024 matchup between Robbie Eagles and Jackson Drake. Did you get a chance to check this one out?
You got it, bro.
Well, yeah, I did watch this matchup today. Thought it was very good. I've never seen Jackson Drake before. Seems to be a young kid, good look, good body, and I guess the whole thing was Robbie's original opponent. I think he was facing Adam Priest or Adrian Priest, something like that. Couldn't make it to the show, so Robbie still wanted to put the PWA Soul title on the line. So this Jackson Drake kid answered the challenge, and yeah, it was a pretty good match. I wouldn't say that it would be something we need to consider for a Excursion match of the year, but it was still a very enjoyable match. I've never really watched DPW before. I guess it's like a local Carolina style indie, but it was a good atmosphere, and this Jackson Drake kid hung in there with Robbie Eagles, and story of the match was kind of almost like that young cocky kid that's trying to keep up with the experienced veteran. And then throughout the match, the Robbie Eagles playbook, he works on the leg of Jackson Drake throughout the several points of the match. And at one point, Jackson Drake's kind of trying to do a big power bomb, but his knee buckles because Robbie had did so much damage on his leg throughout the match with kicks and Ron Miller attempts. And the crowd was really into Robbie, and it seemed like a really smart crowd. And I never know what you expect with certain indies. Sometimes people come into certain indies and they just don't get good reactions, but Robbie got good reactions here. They knew the Robbie, oi, oi, oi chant. They knew TMDK. They were really behind Robbie throughout the whole match, and through the end, Robbie does the 450 on the leg, puts on the Ron Miller special, and gets the submission victory, and retains the PWA Soul Championship.
We got another question in over the past hour that we might have overlooked. We kind of already addressed it, but I feel like we should just go over it real quick. This was from Twitter user Udojo. Says, are we getting ZSJ and Shota at the Dome? I have floor tickets to Wrestle Kingdom, a flight, and hotel booked, and I'm horrified at the prospect of this match. If this match is booked, will fans sell their tickets, skip going, or leave before the main event? Is the Shota backlash growing?
Yeah.
It won't be the main event. That's at that point you're expecting Naito to probably work Hiromu, and then at that point you're probably praying to God that Tony Khan, out of the kindness of his heart, either sends over Jay White or Okada or Will Ospreay, or Danielson decides to come out of retirement, because what the fuck, what are we doing?
We got some questions came in from Death Triangle as well.
Oh wow.
So let me pull these up here.
Wow, Jeremy, wow.
So he says, I understand that Japan their main focus. I understand that the Japan is their main focus, but it does seem like they put even less importance on the Royal Quest show. The recent show had a good main event and felt like a house show, which isn't a bad thing, but a show you will forget soon.
One thing I did want to say is, like, I loved that they were running in the UK. And while granted, I can't be there, I kind of alluded to this, but like, how chill is it to get to watch New Japan in the afternoon on a Sunday? Like, that shit's sick. And like, that's a good time where like it's early enough for us, but it still works with the Japanese time zone, and it's good for the British. Like, if that market had been stronger, that would almost be the better place for them to go, just in terms of like convenience, as opposed to the US. But I don't know. I almost kind of wish they would go there more, so I could watch wrestling at a more reasonable hour.
Yeah. But yeah, I think we pretty much agree with the sentiments here of Death Triangle, but this feeling more like a house show than kind of a bigger show.
World Quest 1 didn't feel that way.
Yeah, World Quest 1 that felt like a big show. You had 6,000 people, you had several title matches, like that's the ideal. He also asked, with Oiwa and Naito...
Wembley is the ideal.
He asked, with Oiwa and Naito interacting at Royal Quest 4, do you think that's the next program for Oiwa?
Oiwa and who?
Naito.
Maybe. I didn't catch that. Did you feel like that?
Nah, I really didn't pick up any signs from that, but I mean, I guess it's possible. I mean, Oiwa has Kenta next at Fighting Spirit Unleashed, but I guess, I don't know. Maybe a power struggle. I don't think Naito was announced for power struggle yet, so. Also asked, would you guys have preferred Akira not to be in Tag League and be involved in the junior title picture? I think Jacob Austin Young and TJP could have been the team in the tournament.
If he wasn't in the tournament, what would he be doing?
Going after the junior title. So he wants Francesco Akira to be going after Doki, and then he wants Jacob Austin Young and TJP to be the team.
No, because Wato's back.
Yeah.
Unless you want to delay that and save that for Wrestle Kingdom.
Yeah, you could have done that, but yeah, if the plans are Wato, then I think you stick with Catch 2 too.
The problem with all of that is that Hiromu just, beat fucking Akira clean as a sheet.
Yeah, man, tap out.
And that was like, wow, we just invested all this time this year into this guy, and he just got beat clean.
Yeah.
Actually, what's funny is you might get a kick out of this, Jeremy. So you weren't in the NJPW live spoiler zone on the Discord, but I was in there talking with people, and Doc says, Josh, you think Funaki Jr. ends up in New Japan with Taka and Dick? Blackpool is a seaside town. No, I remember Pac calling it a shithole. So he's talking about Sho Funaki's son ending up in New Japan. And I never even knew that there was a Funaki Jr. So I responded and I said, we have not so much as heard whether there is a Funaki Jr. Young boy 19. Nobody popped for it. Nobody got my Bible reference.
Oh, man. His last question, did they confirm the winner of Shota vs. SANADA will have a shot at the Dome or on their other U.S. shows?
No, but I mean, if you've watched New Japan, you know what the fuck that means.
Yeah, they haven't added any stipulation to that, but yeah, I think that the winner of that will get a title shot, which is probably going to be Umino, and I'm sticking with it being Strong Style Evolved.
And that's the only place that could make sense, because historic crossover, Zack Sabre Jr. is already in a mixed tag match.
Right, yeah. So
unless Shingo wins.
Yeah, then.
And then all bets are off.
Yeah. All right. Do you have a recommended match for us for this week?
No.
All right. How about we do Ishii and Luke Jacobs from Global Wars?
That's fine.
All right.
Not feeling the best. You go to bed.
Well, we got a pretty short show here this week. Well, I guess 2 hours, not the full 3 hours this week. So, yeah, wrapping it up now. So next week we'll be back to start reviewing the first 4 nights of Super Junior Tag League. So remember, if you want to watch our show live or listen without ads, you sign up at patreon.com/KI Strong Style. You can also make a donation by visiting socialsuplex.com/donate and click on the donate button under the Keeping It Strong Style logo. You can also grab one of our shirts over at shop-tees.com/KI Strong Style. Make sure to connect with us on social media. On X, follow us at KI Strong Style, at Social Suplex, and at Jeremy L. Donovan. On Facebook, follow us at facebook.com/Social Suplex and the Wrestling Squared Circle Facebook group. On Reddit, I'm the Pro Black Guy. Also Keeping It Strong Style. On YouTube, we are at Social Suplex. You can join our Social Suplex Discord server to interact with us and other wrestling fans. You can email me at jeremy@socialsuplex.com. And check out all the other shows that we have here on the Social Suplex Podcast Network. One Nation Radio, hosted by Rich Latta and James Boyd. All Things Elite with Floyd Johnson Jr. and Austin Tomowitz. Imps WWE Adventure with The Implications, Matthew Mayer. Wrestling Art with Chris Things. Tunnel Talk with Ali and Leah. And the Trish and Sarah Wrestling Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a rating and review, and we will catch you next week on Keeping It Strong Style, the ace of podcasts.
Itchabum.
Thank you for listening to Keepin' It Strong Style. We'll see you next time.